In this video, we're going to show the application of a protective repair system for new parts that matches the demands of the car manufacturer for the original paint system. When parts of a car have to be replaced, it is obvious that the paint system applied on these parts should match the demands placed on the original paint system by the car manufacturer. Two kinds of new parts can be distinguished: a bolt-on replacement panel, a welded-in panel. These new panels each require a different repair system. Let us first take a look at the bolt-on replacement panel. Like any repair, this one starts with the thorough degreasing of the bolt-on replacement panel with M600. Use two rags, one to dissolve the contamination and the other to remove it. Then start to sand the electrocoat primer with P280 dry. Remove the sanding dust and clean again with M600 in the usual way. Now mix 100 parts Mataflex CR primer with 100 parts Mataflex CR primer hardener. In mixed condition, Mataflex CR primer has a pot life of 8 hours at 20 degrees Celsius. Fill the spray gun with the primer and always use a paint strainer. Mataflex CR primer should be applied with a gravity feed spray gun with a 1.5mm fluid tip or a suction feed gun with a 1.8mm fluid tip. In both cases, the appropriate working pressure is 3 to 5 bar. Apply Mataflex CR primer in a single flowing coat. Allow for a flash-off time of 15 minutes. Now mix 100 parts autocryl filler with 50 parts 1,2,3 hardener and 30 parts 1,2,3 thinner. For accurate mixing, use the mixing stick. In mixed condition, autocryl filler has a pot life of 4 hours at 20 degrees Celsius. Fill the spray gun. Use a paint strainer. Autocryl filler can be applied with either a gravity feed spray gun with a 1.2 to 1.5mm fluid tip or a suction feed gun with a 1.3 to 1.6mm fluid tip. The appropriate working pressure is 3 to 5 bar. Before the application of the autocryl filler, tack rag the panel. First apply a thin flowing coat. Allow for 6 to 10 minutes flash-off time. Now apply the second coat. Autocryl filler can be applied wet on wet. "15 minutes after the application of the last coat of autocryl filler, it can be recoated with any Sikkens top coat. Now, let us briefly repeat this system for bolt-on replacement panels. First of all, degrease the panel thoroughly. Then, sand the electrocoat primer with P80 dry. Degrease once again with M600. Mix 100 parts Mataflex CR primer with 100 parts Mataflex CR primer hardener. Select the proper spraying equipment and working pressure. Apply a single flowing coat. Allow for a flash-off time of 15 minutes. Mix 100 parts of autocryl filler with 50 parts of 123 hardener and 30 parts of 123 thinner. Use the mixing stick. Apply the autocryl filler with a gravity feed gun with a 1.2 to 1.5 millimeter fluid tip or a suction feed gun with a 1.3 to 1.6 millimeter fluid tip. Working pressure should be a 3 to 5 bar. Tack rag the panel prior to application. Apply autocryl filler in 2 coats and allow for a flash-off time of 6 to 10 minutes between coats. After the second coat, wait for 15 minutes before applying the top coat. This repair system protects the new panel against corrosion as effectively as the original paint system protects the rest of the car. So far, we've been talking about bolt-on replacement panels. A welded-in panel, however, requires a different approach due to the irregularities caused by the welding. Let us see how this job is done. Always start by degreasing the welded panel with M600. Use 2 rags, one to dissolve the contamination and the other to remove it. First, sand only the weld with a P36 fiber disc. And then sand it with P80 dry and sand the panel with P180 dry. Degrease again with M600. Mix 100 parts Sikkens Primer Surfacer EP with 50 parts Primer Surfacer EP hardener and 30 parts of 123 thinner. Apply Sikkens Primer Surfacer EP with either a gravity feed gun with a 1.2 to 1.5 millimeter fluid tip or a suction feed gun with a 1.3 to 1.8 millimeter fluid tip. The working pressure should be 3 to 5 bar. Apply Sikkens Primer Surfacer EP in 1 flowing coat. Let it dry for only 30 minutes at 20 degrees Celsius. Then a poly kit can be applied on top of Primer Surfacer EP. This polyester body filler is dry to sand after 15 minutes at 20 degrees Celsius. Start sanding with P80 dry on the body filler and continue with P180 dry on the whole panel. Now, clean and degrease the panel with M600, once again using 2 rags. In case you have sanded through the Primer Surfacer EP coat, apply wash primer on the sanded through spots. Then proceed with mixing 3 parts autocryl 3+1 filler with 1 part autocryl 3+1 filler hardener. Always use the mixing stick for accurate mixing. For the application of autocryl 3+1 filler, use a gravity feed gun with a 1.7 to 2 millimeter fluid tip. The working pressure is 2 to 4 bar. Now apply the first coat. Allow for a flash-off time of 5 to 10 minutes. Then apply the second coat of Autocryl 3+1 filler. A third coat can be applied if required, but allow for 5 to 10 minutes flash-off time between coats. Autocryl 3+1 filler dries in 4 hours at 20 degrees Celsius or in 30 minutes at 60 degrees Celsius. After sanding, which can be done dry with either P360 to P400 or wet with P800 to P1000 and degreasing, Autocryl 3+1 filler can be recoated with any Sikkens top coat. Now let us repeat the repair process of a welded-in panel step by step. First, degrease the panel with M600, then sand the weld with a P36 fiber disc and subsequently with P80 dry. Continue to sand the panel with P180 dry. Now clean with M600 again. Mix 100 parts Sikkens Primer Surfacer EP with 50 parts Primer Surfacer EP hardener and 30 parts 123 thinner. Use the mixing stick. Apply the Primer Surfacer EP with either a gravity feed gun with a 1.2 to 1.5 millimeter fluid tip or a suction feed gun with a 1.3 to 1.8 millimeter fluid tip at a working pressure of 3 to 5 bar. Apply Sikkens Primer Surfacer EP in one flowing coat. Let it dry for 30 minutes. Then polykit can be applied on top of Primer Surfacer EP. It takes 15 minutes for polykit to dry. Then sand it with P80 dry and continue with P180 dry on the whole panel. Once again, degrease with M600. Mix 3 parts Autocryl 3+1 filler with 1 part Autocryl 3+1 filler hardener. Use the mixing stick. For the application of Autocryl 3+1 filler, use a gravity feed gun with a 1.7 to 2 millimeter fluid tip and a working pressure of 2 to 4 bar. Apply 2 or 3 coats of Autocryl 3+1 filler. Allow for 5 to 10 minutes flash-off time between coats. At 20 degrees Celsius, Autocryl 3+1 filler takes 4 hours to dry. At 60 degrees Celsius, the drying time is reduced to 30 minutes. Before applying the top coat, Autocryl 3+1 filler should be sanded either dry with P360 to P400 or wet with P800 to P1000. This refinishing system will protect the welded part as effectively as the original finish will protect the rest of the car. For detailed technical information on products in this system, consult the technical information sheets.